Casi medio.
Okay. Mayor,
Yes.
okay, we're ready.
Okay. Colin's here with us.
You want me to do the roll call?
Yes, please.
Okay, Councilmember Yaffe?
Yeah.
I know he's here.
I'm here.
Councilmember Tricoche?
Here.
Councilmember Salver?
Here.
Councilmember Reed?
Here.
Councilmember Leonard?
Here.
Vice Mayor Fuller?
Here.
Mayor Bruder?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Okay. So I guess, Colin, are you with us?
Let me read the items.
Okay.
I am, but
Item number 1 is a presentation by Colin Bensinger and Associates of candidates for the position of town manager and selection by the town council of the finalists. I think all of you got a lot of information and a tally sheet for this
Right.
meeting.
Okay.
Colin?
Colin, take it away.
all right. Well, we are getting closer to making a decision, I hope. I suppose you all do too. We had an active recruitment, and the number escapes me, but it seems to me we had around 60 or 70 applicants. We whittled it down to about a dozen, and we have forwarded to the council the materials for those roughly dozen applicants, finalists, semi-finalists. And what we normally do at this point is to ask you each to do a straw ballot, non-binding. Let me emphasize that as a way to start. Our goal is to just have you each express your preferences in terms of who you might want to interview. And the reason I say it's non-binding is all we're looking for is an idea of who most of you are interested in. And then we can have a discussion, if you like, of whether you want to go forward with just those candidates, if you want to add some candidates. If one of you thinks that one of the candidates shouldn't be interviewed, we can discuss that as well. But I have ballots that were sent to me earlier from 4 of the council members. And I can throw those up on the screen, or at least I can throw the summary sheet up on the screen if you like. But I do need input from 3 more council members, I guess.
Well,
If they're ready to provide it.
can you let us know who has not provided so that?
I don't think I have one from council member Leonard, council member Salver, and council member Yaffe.
I emailed mine about 10 minutes ago.
Okay, then I need to go into my email.
Jordan,
I have my list here.
are you planning on sending it to Colin so he can do a straw?
Yeah, I can do that.
That would be great. Isaac?
Yeah, I don't know how, honestly, I feel like I didn't do my homework properly. I mean,
Oh, yeah, man.
I know. Honestly, I mean, I'm just being candid with you. I mean, I would really like more time. It's just been really, really hectic in my household. But I mean, I'd like to see what everybody else is thinking, if that's okay.
That's fine.
Is that bad? Kelly's laughing. Sorry.
It's like you're cheating on our tests.
I know. I'm absolutely cheating on the test. I just want to, I don't know. I mean, so many of these candidates are very, very qualified, but I'd really, I'd like to know what direction, the rest of the council is going. And I mean, I know there are a couple of people here, that I'd really like to see, in the top 5 or the top 3.
Okay. Do you wanna share that with Colin to see, or do you want to wait to see if those 3 are part of the?
Yeah, I'd like, if I mean, is that, can I do this? Actually, I mean, this is kind of an open meeting, and I see some of the candidates are actually listening in. So,
Okay.
I want to be.
Yeah, I mean, you could give me the 2 or 3 or however many you have that you think you want to interview at this point, and we could throw it into the mix.
Hey, Colin?
Yeah, if you want.
I sent you the list. There's 6 names on there. So
Okay, I'll just pull it back up and see if I've got it.
it's hard to cut it down.
I
Got
mean,
it.
they were all excellent. They're all excellent candidates.
Yeah, yeah, you know what, let me go ahead and let me print it. Do you want me to print it or just tell you, it's just,
You
Just send
can,
it, you know, if
you
you
can
want.
just tell me, I mean, rather than send it if you like.
okay. Let me give you at least 3 that I kind of really like. One of them is Kathy Brooks.
Okay,
Funny, I have, you know, and I like Maria Lindsay.
okay.
You mean
Last day, yeah.
And I like Matt Garside.
Okay. All right, well, I will throw up what we have on the screen so you can all see where we're at.
Okay.
There we go. And I just need to share. I assume you can all see that.
Okay.
And I would encourage you, first of all, to make sure that I recorded your preferences correctly. It's been known to happen that I'll be off the line.
All right, I wasn't completely out of,
I'm just highlighting the ones that have a majority of the council that have indicated a preference. So we have 3 at this point. My recommendation is to have 5, ideally, plus an alternate if possible. If we went to the candidates that have 3, there's 3 of those, I guess, if I'm counting properly. I'll just highlight those. And the question would then be, I mean, would you want to interview all 6? That's a possibility. We haven't talked about how we're going to do that to start with, but we could either interview 6 or pick 2 plus one of the ones with 3 would be an alternate, say.
Well, this is Josh. I would love to know, as far as everybody's, there's a basis where everybody came from as far as why they made the selections they did. I think we have a general consensus, but I'm just curious everybody's mindset.
I don't mind.
Was there,
So I looked at a couple of different things. I looked at certifications and accreditations that the individual might have, applicable education. Did they have a bachelor's versus a master's? What was their master's actually in? I looked at longevity in their positions, who had been in the positions for the longest, and who had, high turnover, and obviously fared towards individuals that had lower turnover than individuals that that moved around a lot. And then I looked at the letters of recommendation, at the strengths and particularly the weaknesses that were listed to get a consensus for the individuals as to what sort of weaknesses that they had. I also tended more towards individuals that had experience at either being an assistant city manager or being a city manager. So that's how I made my selections.
Okay, I also similarly looked at who has experience as a town manager, an assistant town manager, or has a tremendous amount of financial understanding. And I also looked to see, what kind of certifications they had, where, and also I picked, I did pick one persons from the area because, we do need also continuity with Dade County. Okay, Josh, do you want to tell us how you picked?
My basis was similar, except what I will tell you is I was actually looking quite often to see if somebody did not have connections in here with South Florida. I like to see essentially new blood coming in so that we don't have repetition of some of the previous problems. Unfortunately, there is very often a connection between one person to another. Also, there is a tendency I've seen, and I think we've all seen, for people from the South Florida area very often to just move from job to job within the South Florida area. So I was looking for how long someone was in the job, their letters of recommendation, their accreditations, their qualifications, the letter, what they were able to achieve at those locations. But more importantly, the fact that they were stable and in a city or a town that was somewhat of the same size and understood what was going on. I was not thrilled with the concept sometimes. Sometimes they were very good candidates, but I didn't love the idea of somebody who was used to a large town or large city in South Florida and now suddenly was coming over to us, because something in my gut tells me that that's a 1 or 2 year position, and then they move on because they're going to want another larger town or something along those lines. So that's really where I was coming from. And I mean, I was just surprised. A lot of my choices seem to be very, very similar, actually, with everybody else on the council. The one that was surprising to me, though, is when I was looking, I thought very highly of, actually, and maybe he's unfortunately alphabetically last, but of Robert. I'm not going to pronounce this right, but Zinkowski. Maybe I am getting it right. I thought he was definitely worth interviewing. I thought his background seemed to be very impressive, and I was surprised that he only got 2 votes. So I was just curious if it was because he wasn't from here, or there was another reason why somebody didn't want him.
I didn't vote for Zinkowski because of some of the issues that arose and some of the additional information specifically regarding him. That was the choice that I made there. I think I liked Stanley Hawthorne as well. I mean, he has a master's, I want to say, in public administration. He's got dual masters actually, and in financial management. I'm just looking to see who else. Looks like only one. No, he's on there. That's all of mine. That's why I opted against him.
Jordan, do you want to share?
Yeah, sure. I, similar to Josh, I actually was looking at this more so from looking at an outsider, thinking that, gee, we're not going to be able to get someone really that kind of like fits all the mold locally. But to be honest, the 2 people that were more local seemed to be some of the best qualified, and they were included. To be quite honest, I actually had 7 originally. One of the, and I agree with Josh, the Zinkowski was on my list. I liked some of the things in his background. I liked the fact that he had a perspective from management and also being elected. Believe it or not, one of the ones that I took off my list was one of the individuals that got 3 votes, which was Steers. I was not, I wanted to get more information, but to be honest, I really didn't like the idea that he took a position that was very competitive, gets the job, and leaves within, a couple of weeks to go take another job in another state after over 70 people applying for the job that he got. So that kind of was a big sour there. So I took him off my list. And by the way, I only noticed that from like one of the last articles that came out in the packet. And that's kind of like where I noticed that one. But as far as I look, I put 6, but I could probably narrow it down even a couple more, to be quite honest. And I'm actually really open to any of the ones that I selected. I thought all of them are absolutely qualified.
Kelly, would you like to share?
I would. Well, first I'd like to say that you guys remember for a long time when I was trying to get us a strategic plan with Ron and wasn't really going anywhere. And I talked about my experience a little, and he used to get annoyed with me mentioning Miami Beach. So one of the candidates, Kathy Brooks, she's the only one that I know personally. We're not social friends, but she was in charge of the strategic planning when I was in charge of training the entire police department. So for many years, all of those meetings that get filtered down through the employees on the police department, our 500 people, all of that training came through me. So I'm very familiar with her work on the beach, and I'm very impressed also. The last time I actually saw her was during the Good Government Initiative in 2013. And she was one of the trainers, which is really, a big compliment to be training elected officials there. So what I looked at was, I do think that with so many local issues we have, like sea level rise or coastal issues or storms, that we need someone really familiar with South Florida. And I don't think there's time for the learning curve. I think it should be somebody who's already been running with this issue particularly. I watched one of the webinars that we had about, the sustainability and the resiliency webinar. And it seems to be like it's more and more urgent that we do something, and we have to do something now. So someone with local experience like that would be important to me. I did look at education, but I didn't rule it out because in my experience, some of the best managers ever might not have had a formal education, but if they have experience and they have good leadership qualities, that could be more than just a diploma on the wall. And some of the certificates, like I had to look one of them up, the NPEDS, do you all know what that means? Right? Okay, National Pollutant Discharge Elimination Systems. That's, in other words, dealing with stormwater. So that was candidate Carlisle, and that and the fact that he was from, south to Treasure Coast area, Sebastian, that worked well for me. I liked his background. He didn't have a master's degree, but he had some very good technical education that might serve us better. As far as the longevity goes, what's the average span of a manager is 3 to 5 years. So as long as they're not jumping around, every year or so, I kind of understand that because listen, it's political and, managers can kind of get into it, mix it up with politicians. Sometimes, when they have a lot of integrity and they have to stand up for what they believe in, then, they might annoy some of the elected officials. So a low turnover, 3 to 5 years didn't really bother me. The letters of recommendation were good to look at, but I noticed in one instance that there was a manager who was actually fired by a council at 3-2. And one of the people who voted to fire him gave him a raving review on the letters of recommendation. You're not going to find a letter of recommendation that, where necessarily there's a knock. There, if you notice, they're all positive. So it's really difficult to get a good read from that. People don't want to go on the record with negativity. They're worried about it. I like to see that they have experience as a city manager, assistant city manager. I like to see, a various background, so if you have planning background, strategic planning, sea level rise kind of issues, I like local. And so my 3 choices were actually the first 3, coincidentally, Alexander Brooks and Carlisle. And I'm open to the rest, but I instead of going on with a broader group, I decided to really narrow it down to the smallest group. And, I was also looking for indications of integrity and consistency. I read every page of that packet all weekend. And Isaac, I know what you mean. It was a holiday weekend and, pressed for time. But I know, I did my best because we've been asking the consultants, not to hurry, but we don't want to draw this out forever. So I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bob?
Sure. Well, frankly, I did not have the opportunity, or I should say the opportunity, I didn't have the time to go through the entire package. I didn't read through all of the recommendations and all of the internet materials and so forth. But from the materials that I did review, I was interested in financial background, education, master's degrees, in some cases, municipal experience, local ties. I actually am somewhat more favorable to people who have ties to South Florida, or at least have an better understanding perhaps of the way government works in Florida, as opposed to some of the other states. It doesn't mean I would rule out somebody who has no Florida ties at the moment, but that was a factor that I took into consideration. As others have said, whether they've served as a manager or assistant manager capacity in the past.
Just get out.
Education, I think I already mentioned. I did have a number of telephone conversations with people about some of the candidates. In one case, I reached out to somebody. In another case, somebody else reached out to me. And based on those calls, that was a factor in my selection. I was at 6. I could be at 7. I mean, I was looking at Maria Lasday also. And I had hoped to narrow it down further, but frankly, I think on paper it's a little bit difficult because they are all very well qualified. Colin did a good job in culling the list, I suppose, and giving us 12 very qualified people. So just on the paper, sometimes it's a little bit difficult to make the best decision. I mean, I remember the last time around, not JC, of course, but when we were interviewing and ultimately selected Ron, the one-on-one interviews I thought were, important to me in ultimately making a decision. So, going off the paper, it's somewhat, hit or miss, but I'm comfortable with most of the candidates. There's one or two that I am not. But I'll leave it
Okay.
at that.
All right, did I miss anybody?
Yeah, me.
Oh, but you said, okay.
There was some rationale behind the choices that I made, albeit there were a few choices, not as many as Jordan. But I did look, for one of the candidates, I actually called one of the references and I really got a fine reference. For another one of the candidates, apart from the municipal service that they had on the resume, one of the candidates they recommended also had some kind of private industry experience, which I hold as a valuable asset because I like the synergy between public service and private industry skills. So that's one of the things. And the other, one of the candidates I think has a degree from Harvard University. And I would like to go around the state bragging, hey, my manager has a degree from Harvard University. I'm sure that there's a brilliance about that. And one of the candidates actually is a lawyer, has a JD, which was quite impressive and I think would be useful, as well. So, those were my simple decision comments.
Thank you. Okay.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
can I just for the record, I think it would be appropriate, since two of the people that have been mentioned are individuals that I overlapped with my work history, and neither of them are personal friends of mine. Neither of them are people that I've spoken to in a while. But I think it would be appropriate for me just to state on the record that my career professionally in government has overlapped with two of the individuals, Kathy Brooks and Steve Alexander. And so I know them both professionally because I worked in government agencies with both of them. So that's all.
Okay. So, let's see. Colin, I guess what we should do is figure out, we have to narrow down the selection. So do we want to narrow it down to 4, to 3, to 5? What would we?
Stephanie, if I can,
Absolutely.
since we're doing this virtually, we don't have to go through the expense of flying people down at this point. I think it would be practical to have, keep the finalists maybe broad, in a broader base of finalists rather than a narrow base of finalists. Because the worst comes to worst, we have a Zoom, Zoom chat like this, and we can find out more how they, their presentation skills, and just get a feel for, for the interview process. What do you think?
So do you want to narrow it down to 5 people? Because we have.
I'm saying
12.
I'm saying at least 5 people.
We have 6 people that have 3 votes or more. Right now, if you go 3 votes or more, there's 6 of them.
May I ask for clarity on something? What is the next step after here? Colin, are we doing individual one-to-ones? Like, what is the next step?
Well, that's something that you need to decide. But what I would recommend is that you do have one-on-ones, even if it's by Zoom, and then you come together as a council and decide. You could do a full council interview, but I think the one-on-ones are the most important. And I had a client who did that in Georgia. It was kind of the round robin thing, just like we normally do. And they settled on, they had 5 candidates. They settled on 3 that they liked, and then they brought the one that was ranked first in for an in-person interview. They met in a park because one of the council members was, high risk, and she didn't want to go into the city hall. And they, interviewed them and decided that maybe they should look at number 2, and they looked at number 2, and number 2 didn't have a college degree, and that was a deal breaker for some of the council members. He could not overcome that with them, and they went to number 3, and actually meeting number 3, they were thrilled to have him, and they hired number 3. So I would suggest that we at least start with Zoom interviews, and frankly, I would do all 6, and
so we have, I'm sorry.
And then go from there.
Yeah, we have 2, we have 2 that ranked 5, 1 that ranked 4, and then we have 1, 2, 3. So there's your 6.
Right, exactly. I would recommend that we just let's go with those 6.
I'm in favor.
Okay, is everybody in favor of that?
Discussion.
I have a question.
Wait 1 second. Go ahead, Kelly.
Okay, my question is, if they're out of town, we are not bearing the cost of the travel expense, correct?
Well, I think we're talking about doing it via Zoom for now.
All by Zoom.
Okay, well, he mentioned the park scenario and, the one-on-one at some point. So usually in a job interview situation, right, the candidate is going to put the bill.
Yeah, I'll find out for you, I promise you. So I think what I think we should do is get the 6, then let's interview them, then narrow it down from the 6 that we have conversations with, and then from there we can discuss about meeting them, I guess, in a park or somewhere.
Stephanie, maybe we can narrow it down to 3 from the 6, and then we'll have more intense, maybe face-to-face interviews.
That makes sense.
That's fine. Let me ask Colin actually one thing that wasn't really included on here. Did any of them give you timelines as far as how long they would have to give notice or anything else or when they would be able to start. So before we start doing one, I don't want to have something where somebody says they've committed to finishing another budget process in a different city and it's going to be 4 or 5 months. Is there any time limit that we know of any of them?
Not that I'm aware of. For those that are currently employed, you'd estimate probably 30 to 45 days. Typically,
Okay.
30 days is the notice in a contract, and then a couple of weeks to make the transition if they're coming from out of town. Some of these could start tomorrow. You know, Steve's not working. Kathy Brooks, I think, is doing some consulting. She might be able to come over more quickly. Maria Lasday is not working at this point, or at least she's turned in her resignation. So,
Okay, no, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't anybody who had committed to something. I know that there was one, obviously, one of the candidates who just took a job somewhere else, and just wanted to be clear.
Okay, so are we all comfortable before I open it up to the public? So we are going to go with 6, correct? Is everybody comfortable with that?
Yes.
Fine.
Okay, okay, so we're gonna open it up for public comment. Alba, who's first? Because I can't see everybody.
Mayor, Mrs. Newhut signed up to speak. Ms. Newhut, can you please state your full name and address, please, before you speak?
Francis Newhut, 1060 King Concourse.
Okay, Ms. Newhut?
Okay, before I begin, I just want to say that it's very hard when you're scheduling your meetings. This should be on the Zoom calendar. I had to click 4 times before I got on to the scheduled meetings to know that there was a meeting today. The second thing I want to bring up is I'm very disappointed that some of the council members stated that they didn't have enough time. This is a very serious situation we have here. We have a problem with not having a town manager. Our budget is coming up. And for council members to say they didn't have the time is a little sad. When I looked at these, I think it's hands down with this Matt Garside. We would be fortunate to have such an educated person from MIT and from Harvard coming to our town. Of these 12 members that were listed, 6 of them were experienced as town managers. The others were not. And also there were people here in cities that we're familiar with, Miami Beach, El Portal, I think was mentioned. Or we should be out of the box. We should go elsewhere and find ourselves a town manager who's not attached to League of Cities, all these other organizations that come together with our town. We should start with a clean slate and have no one else. And again, Matt Garside, town manager, is improving Poland's, he's from ME, budget process. We're right now going to be doing our budget. We don't even have a town manager who is qualified to really go over this. We are desperate for, we don't have time. We don't have time. And you keep on saying, well, we'll come back, we'll come back. This has been going on for some time now. And
Well,
I think we can't ignore it.
Ms. Newhut, but there has to be a process to get to the finals. I mean, there are 12 of them. We're narrowing it now down to 6. Then we will then interview the 6, and then we will narrow it down again. There is a process to get a town manager.
But when we had JC as the interim town manager before Marlene, we should have been looking for a qualified town manager who has the experience that this Matt Garside. There is nobody on this whole 12 people that you have chosen that qualifies to this high standard. I hope you can even get a person like this. This is like unbelievable that a person from MIT and Harvard would even want to come to our town, and you're putting him with only 2 votes, and then you have our council not even having the time to look at this. It's very insulting to your citizens and residents to hear this tape and see what's going on here. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Alba?
No, no one else has signed up, Mayor.
No,
Okay.
Stephanie, if I
Yes.
may, I just want to take 3 seconds to respond to
Absolutely.
some of the points that were made. First of all, to imply that our, acting town manager is not qualified on the highest of levels of, compared to other town managers is patently false and inaccurate. She's, in my opinion, Marlene has stepped into the role of town manager. She's done a very good job. The town is, is running and it's running well. And, I take exception to that comment, nor do I agree with it. And as far as me, admitting that I didn't go through the package cover to cover, I didn't want to even share this with anybody, but, apart from the fact that my brother-in-law has been in the hospital for more than 11 weeks and called us last night and still says he can't breathe. My wife's uncle, about 1 o'clock this afternoon, passed away as a result of complications from COVID-19. So apart from, running the practice and running the family, we've had a lot on our plate for the last couple of months. And I do apologize to you, Mrs. Newhut, and the community for not being able to read, everyone's resume perfectly and everyone's, newspaper articles, from cover to cover and, everyone's letter of recommendation from cover to cover. So, I apologize to you and the community for that, but I just thought my comments, might be helpful to add some perspective to the comments that you made.
Can I say something? Stephanie?
Go ahead. She's on mute. Okay.
Okay. I echo a couple of comments that Isaac made. I think that, we're very well managed, with Marlene and Alba and Melissa and in our staff here. Certainly we would like, to make a final selection, at the earliest possible time on a manager, but we want to do it properly. Maybe Mrs. Newhut does not, fully understand, the circumstances that we are all living under at the present time. JC was never an interim manager. He was a manager who resigned and agreed to stay with us for a certain period of time, left a little sooner for personal reasons. And it's become a little bit difficult to manage all of this and make all of the arrangements and, go through this process during a pandemic. Even having these meetings by Zoom and not having all of the materials available in the book form that we're used to. I mean, I'm certainly capable of going through it on a computer. I believe in being truthful. So, I said what I read and what I didn't read. I frankly don't feel the need to go through every little bit of internet material. What I did was, look at the summary, look at the resumes, look at the experience. As I said, had some personal contact with not the candidates, obviously, but with other people, so that I feel, relatively comfortable being able to narrow this down. So I think that, there are some people who always have negative things to say about everything, always have, criticism about everything, which is, of course, their right to do so. But we have the right to respond. And the only thing I agree with Ms. Newhut on is Matt Garside was one of my selections and somebody that I would like to interview and meet, but he's only got 2 votes. So
I have a question.
Okay. Sure, go ahead, Kelly.
Okay, first, condolences to the Salver family. That's terrible
yes,
news.
I'm sorry. I
Yes.
would like to do that as well.
Thank you.
Isaac.
I had a conversation with Colin earlier today, and that was actually one of my questions about Mr. Garside's resume, because I too picked up on the very impressive establishment of Harvard University, but I noticed that MIT and Harvard, it was like a 1-year period or maybe 2, 96 to 97. So I was wondering, I asked him if that was a full degree or maybe a certificate program, because very often in public administration, these schools offer a certificate program, and that's great. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's something that, is definitely to know the distinction.
Okay.
If I might just say something quickly.
Yes, of course.
I've thought a little bit about Mr. Garside and his Harvard degree. He does maintain he has an MPA, and we did verify his education. So I'm comfortable he has a legitimate MPA from Harvard. Some of the schools do have special one-year programs. I mean, it could be an 18-month program when you say, you know, depending on when he started in 96 and when he finished in 97. I'm not familiar with their particular program, but we did verify that he has a master's in public administration. Having said that, though, I have a master's degree from Cornell University in public administration with distinction. And you wouldn't want me to be your town manager. You know, I did it for 3 years, did okay. But education's not really, from my point of view, the key. It's whether or not you can manage, and a degree doesn't necessarily prove that. Finally, the other point I wanted to make was, I think it was mentioned that 6 of the 12 had been town managers or city managers. Actually, 10 of the 12 have been. So,
Actually, let me pipe in for a second too. Mr. Garside was actually my 6th one. We were told to put 5 in there. He was number 6 on my list. I will tell you this. I mean, I found his Navy experience actually very impressive. So his military background I thought was somewhat helpful, but I don't think he had that much as far as town manager experience, and that's why he fell to 6 out of the top 5 for me. That was really the key. He looked like a very impressive person. I think at some point served as somebody we wanted to expand to another person. I have no problem interviewing him, but it was a matter of experience more than anything else.
Okay, so I would like to first say, of course, to the Salvo family, how sorry we are, but I have to tell everybody who is listening that this is a very, very difficult time for everybody, and that everybody is juggling a lot, and I think the council as a whole is doing the very best they can within the situation that we are in. And it's a little bit of a unique situation because normally we would be sitting in our council and we would have them come in and we would have open discussion. So I think that under the circumstances, I believe the council as a whole wants to do the very best they can and is trying the very best. And, you know, I think Isaac has been at every meeting. He hasn't missed a meeting through this whole pandemic. And kudos to him, because it would be very difficult to juggle everything that he's been juggling. So I just wanted to say that. Also,
Mayor?
I'm sorry, there was one member of the public who wished to speak that speak up in time.
Okay. Who is it, please?
It's Kathleen Kennedy. Ms. Kennedy, you need to unmute yourself. I try unmuting you, but there you go. You can speak now.
Thank you. First of all, hi, everybody.
Hello.
Please state your name and address, Kathleen, please.
Oh, yes. Kathleen Kennedy, 9180 West Bay Harbor Drive,
Thank you.
apartment 2B. First of all, my condolences to Isaac Salva and his family. Number 2, am I being heard?
Yes.
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 Oh, okay. Okay. I like the conversation. First of all, I haven't read any resumes because I never got them. So, but I am listening to the conversation, and I like what Josh Fuller is saying about Salkowski, if that's his name. And I think that anybody coming in here, Harvard, MIT, reflects on this town. I think you'll get attention from top politicians around the country when you hear about the resumes of some of these high-end educated people, because what we've had training all these trainees is not what this town needs. We need, we have a lot of kids here. We need somebody who specializes in the community center, doing things for our kids, for our seniors, all around planning, comprehensive plan. Like Kelly said, see, you know, rising waters, just the whole gamut. And I'm sure you'll make the right decision, you know, whoever you pick. So lots of luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Alba, is there anybody else from the public that would like to speak?
I don't believe there is, but if anybody would like to speak, they can unmute themselves at this point. I don't have any other requests, Mayor.
Okay, so Colin, I guess what we're going to do is take the first, what did we say? The first 6 or first 5?
There's 6.
Six.
Okay. The first 6, and then you're going to help us coordinate to get Zoom meetings with them. And then when we're all done with our Zoom meetings, we'll come back together and we'll have our next discussion. Is that correct?
That's my understanding. Now, it would be helpful if you could give me, if you could agree on a date when, or 2 that might be convenient for all of you to do these interviews.
So why
Can
don't,
we-
yeah.
Can we have like one-on-one interviews with each of the 6 people?
Yes,
Okay.
we're gonna Zoom the meeting one-on-one. So what I'm gonna have Alba do is I'm gonna have Alba reach out and you guys will give her, I guess within the next week or so, if we can, dates and times that work for you, and then give them to Colin so that we can coordinate, when each one of you is, available. And I think, Isaac, we need to work mostly around yours, with all due respect to the rest, your schedule, because you're in the middle of Shiva.
Yeah, no, it's no problem. And I just want to mention something. Thanks everybody for the condolences. And I think, just in general, I think the council got it right. Honestly, seeing the results of what everybody did, Colin gave us good candidates, and I think the council got it right. Even though I might not have agreed exactly with everybody, but I think everybody, generally speaking, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, I think you guys got it right, and I think we should continue on this path. I think, we'll get it done.
Okay, perfect. Okay, well, everybody, thank you.
Wait, Kelly's trying to say something.
Oh, sorry, Kelly.
That's okay. 2 things. These individual Zoom meetings, are they public meetings?
No,
Are they
they would
recorded?
be.
Okay, so they're just individual, like a private conversation, like a coffee talk. Okay.
Correct.
And number 2 is, can you just read off the 6 because we can't see the spreadsheet anymore?
I can read it off if you like.
Please.
It's Stephen Alexander, Kathy Brooks, Maria Leske, Glenn Golan, Stanley Hawthorne, and Christopher Steers.
Wait, you missed, I think, we couldn't hear them all. Can you repeat that again, please?
Noise in the background. I can repeat them, it's fine.
Maybe in alphabetical order.
Here we go. Oh, that's the wrong one.
Oh, he put them up, okay.
No, that's the wrong one. That's for my meeting later tonight. Let me get the right one.
How are their candidates?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that was for Brighton, Colorado. Here we go. Sorry, I had the wrong one up. There we go. The ones in yellow are the ones that had a majority of the council. The ones that are in green are the ones with almost a majority.
Can you circulate this?
Sure, absolutely. I'll send it over.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
All right, so do we adjourn? Do we have to take any formal action?
Before you adjourn, I'd like to give you, since we're not going to have a meeting in July, I'd like to give you an update on a couple of things, if you don't mind, really quickly. On the Causeway project, the change order for the green stripe was approved by FDOT, and the best news is that it's going to be completely paid out of grants, no monies from the town. So
Thanks.
we're just waiting
Great.
on them, have the material and come out and do that. The top lot is ahead of schedule, should be completed within a week or 2, weather permitting. The Church by the Sea has pulled the permit, and they will be ready to commence work in the next few days. They already had our meeting with us, so they're ready to proceed. Budget process is moving along. We have scheduled a workshop meeting for July 30th at 5 p.m. And before that, we'll give you some information on the budget. We're still gathering quotes on insurance and things like that. I wanted to also bring up the town attorney search that we did only yielded three firms that did it correctly. One firm submitted an open bid, which was, it could be accepted or not. I wanted to suggest to you that we do this again. I mean, after looking at the managers, we had 65 candidates. We only got 4 for town attorney, which is an equally important position in the town. I also would like to suggest, as I did the first time we met, that perhaps we should use a firm like we did for the town manager.
Marlene, can I just say, we only opened it for 2 weeks. Maybe we need to open it a little
No,
longer.
we did it for a month.
Oh, we did?
It was a month, yeah.
Yes, but there's a lot of circumstances. It was only on our website and on the Miami Business Review. There's a lot of things going on. Obviously, COVID-19 is not the best time to do this, but we need to do it. Again, my suggestion would be to use a firm like Collins, maybe not Collins, I don't know, but like Collins, to go out and do the same type of search for town attorney.
What firms, Marlene, submitted?
We had 3. We had the Mercer Group, we had Colin Bensinger, and we had another one. I can't recall the name.
No, I mean, what firms submitted for a town attorney, not for the search?
I'm sorry. How about you? Do you remember? I have.
It was Colin, Mercer Group, and I believe it was Legume HR.
No.
What attorneys?
We had Justin Bowen was the one that submitted open. Frank Simone. And we had. One more, I can't remember the
Wasn't it Gray Robinson?
Gray Robinson.
Gray Robinson, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Actually, let me, if you got a second, I'd also like to give everybody an update on the FAA matter, if I can.
Can I get an answer on the town attorney?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Matter from you guys. Which direction would you like me to take on that one?
Marlene, like for me, personally, I would like to have it be open for more firms to apply. I'd like for us to advertise it probably a little bit better. I don't think we need to go as far as a search firm, but I do think the problem with COVID-19 is a lot of people are not in, their offices and whatnot. I think for 100% sure we need to do a better job in advertising. But other than that, I'd like to keep it open for a little bit longer and advertise it better.
I agree with Jordan.
So do I. I agree also.
I have a question to the attorneys. Isn't there some kind of a database through the bar or the Dade and Broward Association? There's got to be some publication that every lawyer in Florida reads, right? Or the Municipal Lawyers Association or something like that?
Yeah, there are a few. I mean, the Florida Bar Journal is certainly one of them. The
Florida Bar News.
Bar News as well. I mean, in point of fact, there aren't very many firms that represent municipalities. I can count on less than one hand the amount of firms that do it in Miami-Dade County, in the Tri-County area. I mean, it's Weiss Serota, Gray Robinson. Schutz is unusual because I can't think of a municipality that they represent. And as you go up the coast, there are a lot more smaller firms that represent a lot of municipalities. Those I know very well. And I've worked with pretty much every firm in South Florida that's represented municipalities. There just aren't that many in the Tri-County area.
Well, my question was really not about firms, but just to make sure, that every lawyer who would possibly be interested would know, for only 4 respondents, including yourself, so 3 others to know about it. And, I think it should be well advertised. I would not be opposed to going with a consulting firm, especially maybe one who already has our description and recruiting brochure, made, maybe we get a discount, something the manager could approve herself.
Yeah, but
Can the
those are the
Miami-Dade
two
League-
publications really, or along with the Miami-Dade League of City or the Florida
Right.
League of Cities, really.
Right, because the
Okay.
Miami-Dade League has, well, I mean, I've been to some of the city attorney
Right.
meetings, used to do it monthly or quarterly, and so there must be a, sort of a directory where the league could assist us in getting the word out if, it's a possibility anyways.
So let's take a consensus of whether we want to just re-advertise and advertise better, or if we want to hire somebody. Bob?
I'm not presently interested in hiring a consultant to find a town attorney.
Okay. Jordan?
As I said, I'm not in favor of a consultant, but I'm in favor of opening up and advertising it better.
Isaac?
Re-advertising it and advertising it a little bit broader.
Okay. Elizabeth?
Same.
Kelly?
Like I said, I would not be opposed to going with a consultant after looking at these packages that we received, because otherwise, someone on staff is going to have to facilitate this and put this information together. So I would look at, bids again, but, it looks like I'm outnumbered. So, just as long as we do go back out again and really advertise it appropriately.
Josh?
At this point, I think advertising only. There aren't that many out there, so if we hit a few more, that's all we need.
Okay, I think we're all in consensus, Marlene, that we want to re-advertise, please, and maybe in other journals or other avenues, and a broader, like Isaac said, and then we'll see what we get, and then we can, at that time, if it doesn't work out to the satisfaction of the council, then we can, look at something else. Is everybody in consensus with that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other business, Marlene?
Yeah.
Josh?
Yeah, I wanted to speak about the FAA for a moment, just to give everybody an update, because it's an important item. First of all, we were able to succeed before, and the landing and the Metroplex plan and everything else, we are still in the clear on that. Nothing's been changed. We succeeded in preventing the landing patterns from coming directly over Bay Harbor. However, you may have noticed there has been an increase in flights over the last month or two, and several. Now, we're still trying to get an answer. We don't have one yet from the Dade County Aviation Department as to whether or not that's training essentially and setting it up for the Metroplex, or if that's just a temporary scheduling and diversion of flights. We don't have a direct answer yet. However, one thing has come up, and I have been trying to deal with it, and I'm not sure how successful we're going to be as a town, because what happened was, it looks like, and we don't have proof of it, but it looks like at the same time that we were lobbying for the landing, Miami Beach may have gone out and lobbied during the same time to shift one of the takeoff patterns and shifted it over, instead of going over them and then over the ocean, coming back and going up the Intracoastal and over North Miami. There is still nothing that's coming over us. However, we're close enough that we will see an increase in decibel level under the current plan. Nothing catastrophic, but it's still probably unacceptable to our residents, and it's obviously unacceptable to us. I'm trying to see what we can do, but at this point, what I'm trying to figure out is how far along it is, because what they seem to have done, and improperly so, is they did not present this at the earlier FAA meetings, made the shift, did the environmental testing, and did the environmental reports, and then announced it afterwards for a comment period after the environmentals have been done. The problem with that is, once the environmentals are done, it is almost impossible to change it. So, like I said, the good part is what we wanted originally changed. The environmentals are done. We got it changed. It's not coming back. The bad news is Miami Beach may have shifted part of the takeoff near us, and I'm trying to see what we can do at this point. And I've been coordinating, trying to work with some groups in North Miami. I've been working, actually speaking with one of the congresswomen's offices, and we're trying to see what we can do at that point. I'll give updates as we get them, but at this point, that's where we stand.
Quick question, Josh.
Yeah.
Question. So, yeah, I I know there's a neighborhood to the west of us that's very concerned about it, and they're kind of on the losing end of the stick. And they mentioned that we possibly, in Miami Beach, possibly did some lobbying in some of their news alerts. And I looked at, there's a diagram with the red and green lines, kind of looks like a boomerang, you know what I'm talking about?
I'm very familiar with it all.
Right, so the best case scenario, the way it used to be is the planes used to go way out east over the ocean and didn't affect anybody terribly. And now it seems like, depending on how much you lobby, they're making it a little better. But do you think there's any hope that if we all unify together, all of these groups that could be possibly aggrieved, that we could get them to go back the way it used to be and not really rain on anyone's parade?
Well, let me clarify a couple of things. First of all, I've spoken with those groups. In fact, even yesterday, I sat into the Zoom meeting. I was actually participating. I explained to everybody what was going on. One of those groups on one of those web pages improperly states that Bay Harbor was doing something to their detriment. I have corrected that with them, and we're working on actually getting that corrected, because what we did earlier helped North Miami. It actually helped that neighborhood. They now understand it. They didn't understand before because they thought we worked with Miami Beach on shifting everything. Obviously, that's not the case. The old pattern did bother Miami Beach. If you remember, whenever the planes would go north, what they used to do is they used to take off going east, and they cross Miami Beach somewhere around the 40s, give or take around there, cut over to the ocean, turn around, and then come back around the 70s or 80s around here. The difference is by the time they crossed back over Miami Beach before going north again, they were so high that it didn't make a difference. It was just that initial takeoff that was over the 40s that was louder. Our argument has always been that, well, the people that bought in those properties, that's been there for 50 years. They knew what they were getting into. They knew the planes were there. That was part of the quality of life in that particular area. Now, what the FAA has tried to do, because Miami Beach lobbied very quietly, and they did so, it looks like Miami Beach. I can't say for sure, but it looks like they did, is that they had this shifted after the comment period, but before the environmental, and then we don't find out about it until after the environmental is done. So we're trying. I'm working with those groups. I'm working with representatives. I'm working with everybody else to see if we can shift that back, at least the takeoff portion. I'm not terribly optimistic. Doesn't mean I'm gonna stop. We were successful, obviously, in taking off a huge section and that problem with the landing. Again, that is not going to be a problem for us because we did eliminate that, and we were successful in that. But this new thing Miami Beach threw to us, I'm not positive what we're going to be able to do, because the way the FAA has done this, which I believe is improper, which is they didn't notify anybody until they did their environmentals, and they came back afterwards. So we're trying to see what we can do, and I will report back as we learn more. I know that North Miami is going to make a huge fuss, and they are making a fuss in the news about what Miami Beach did to them, and rightfully so, because essentially what Miami Beach did is they pushed to have, and again, I don't want to blame Miami Beach, but it seems that's what happened. The new flight pattern seems to, instead of going over an affluent area, it has been shifted to go over a lower economic area. And obviously that is completely unfair, and there is no real basis for them making that shift. So we're trying to see what we can do at that point.
Can I say something? Also, someone from North Miami contacted me in regards to this, and I actually referred them to Josh, our resident counsel / aviation expert. But I also wanted to ask Josh if you were in favor, if you think that we need to retain a lobbyist or counsel in regards to this, because it seems like to me that this is obviously we're running out of time, so to speak. Do you think that we need to get somebody who could possibly help you with this?
We're getting close, and that's okay. I don't want to advocate spending the money unless I can see at least some window where we can succeed, even if it's a slight window. So I've been reaching out to the same sources we had before and a few others, trying to see what the possibility is as far as making this change now that the environmental's been done. Once I have a better understanding, which I would expect is in the next couple of weeks at most, then at that point, I'll come back and let everybody know whether or not I believe we need to have a lobbyist hired. If that occurs, and if I think we need one, I will ask, and I'll, obviously we would need Marlene to go ahead and contact everybody for emergency meeting for that purpose. But at this point right now, we don't know what the extent of the changes are. And at the same time, The comment period ends, I believe, in 3 days. It ends on Friday. But this comment period is, for the most part, somewhat useless. The FAA has already done the environmentals. And, the real problem that Bob and I tried to stop, and like I said, again, we're successful in part of it, is that once the environmental is done, it's more lip service from the FAA than anything else. So we really need the push from North Miami to show at least a crack in the wall that they have as far as the possibility of getting this shifted. And if that happens, then yes, then we need to step in.
Okay. And then second, I'm sorry.
I just want to say thank you for all your work, Josh. Sorry.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate the support from everybody.
Yeah, and also before we adjourn, I also want to send my condolences to Isaac and Bahi and their family. That's truly horrible news. We're all obviously feeling for you.
Thank you. Thanks, George.
Isaac, you're in all our wishes.
Thanks.
Sure.
Thank you.
Stephanie, you're muted if you're trying to.
Yeah, no, thanks. I gotcha. Can you hear me? Yeah.
No, Stephanie, are you on there? Okay, well, if she's
trying to get my kids off. They keep calling. I said, I hope everybody stays safe. And Colin will be, reaching out to you with, Alba will be reaching out to you with the dates and times that the different council people are available.
Sounds good to me. I'll look forward to it. Thank you. And thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.